Hello, and thank you for having a listen to this week's episode of Secure Insights with NDK Cyber. Now, as many of you know, NDK Cyber are first and foremost a cybersecurity recruitment company. We help you scale rapidly, find those niche skill sets, hire in tricky locations, whatever you might be doing. There's a chance we've done that before, and we can probably help you do it this time too. Now, we started the Secure Insights podcast really as a way to shine a light on important areas, to tackle hot subjects, and really to give people a platform to tell some pretty cool stories. So this week, I'm very excited to be joined by Jackson from Astrix, who is the co-founder and CEO. Now, we tackle a number of things on this podcast here that I'm very excited to share. Jackson's background, Astrix, who they are, what they do, the whole NHI non-human identity space and where that started versus where it is now, and then ultimately what's coming down the pipe for the future. We also talk through a few areas of what's contributed to Jackson's success and zero customer churn. Jackson talks about quite an exciting announcement that they're due to make very shortly, and then does share some advice for fellow CEOs and co-founders as well. So very excited to share this one. Hope you enjoy. Jackson, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, James.
Not at all, not at all. So I would have done you an intro there. It wouldn't have done you any justice at all. Are you okay to give a quick overview of your background and everything for those that aren't familiar?
Of course, of course. So Jackson goes by Jackson, but Alon is the first name, a very boring Israeli name.
Yeah.
CEO, co-founder here at Astrix. The last 4 years, it feels like, I don't know, 4 months. Time really, really flies. We're around 100 employees now. We raised 85 million to date. The last round late last year. Leading the non-human identity market these days, more and more to do with agentic AI identities being, yes, the most interesting type of non-human, obviously, today. Yeah, before this, I was a VP R&D at another startup. We did automotive cybersecurity, basically hacking into cars and cool stuff like that. We sold to a big German company over there for about half a billion almost. So exciting years. And prior to that, 12 years at A200, the cybersecurity unit in Israel. So quite a long army career there.
Wow, that's a lot you've just crammed into 30 seconds. So we'll get into a few more of these points in a moment. So I wanted to get in straight away really to Asterix, and you kind of pointed out some of the accolades you've got there. You know, 4 years, 2 rounds of funding, 85 million raised, which we can get into a bit later on. But can you share a bit more around how this all got started? You know, way back in 2021.
Sure, sure. So it was 2021, and we kind of looked at the way that enterprises are struggling with adopting new technology, and the risks and the pros and cons that comes with adopting the latest and greatest. Um, Understanding, also taking into consideration, our offensive background. Obviously, we did a lot of validation with tens and tens of security leaders and practitioners. The Israeli ecosystem and the Israeli network has a lot to do. We have a lot to thank, the network here that helps entrepreneurs reach the market relatively easily, and validate. So we started in one place, and they kind of shaped us and helped us get into the right point there. And then we really landed on what I think today wasn't a great tagline of integration access management, right? So managing the access basically of third-party integrations, and how organizations adopt third parties, and really understanding, again, from the offensive background, that this is the way that attackers kind of get under the radar. While there a lot of solutions for users into a face, single sign-on, stuff like that, there's nothing for applications that get access, right, and third-party services that get access to the enterprise. And actually, just 2 weeks ago, we had the Drift incident that kind of shook the whole industry, specifically cybersecurity. Of course, one of the biggest breaches, maybe the most widespread breach of this year. That's exactly point on that issue. It's a third-party service, right, connecting to the enterprise with a wide blast radius. Yeah, so it's been 4 years, but the issue is still very relevant. It's evolved a lot. We can talk about that, but Yeah, that's kind of how we focused and honed on into that aspect.
Got you. I guess I'm racking my brains a little bit here, but going back to 2021 time, the whole non-human identity, I guess, is it category or pillar, well, however you want to term it, it wasn't much of a thing back then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually not a thing at all. So as I said, we called it integration access management. A very poor name, I understand. Not a name, but a tagline, right?
Mm.
We hired our first marketing leader, and she very rightfully said that it's a poor tagline. We should change it to something much more catchy. We changed it actually to app security, so connecting app to app, connections, which is much more catchy, right? Obviously, much more marketing wise. I'm not sure it was clear enough, exactly what we do. And then we kind of, the third, evolution of that was really kind of focusing on the identity, right? Maybe back to the access part, but looking at it from an identity perspective. And then, funny stories with that. I was actually against non-human identity when we first, talked
Oh, really?
about the term. Yeah, yeah, it's a funny story. I usually share it quite proudly, although I was wrong. So I thought that it sounds a bit too soft, like not humane. And I was for a non-user identity. So you have user accounts, user access management. And this is your conversations, obviously, with Gartner, marketing, PR firms, just, really talking with everyone. We did a survey. We run this through, our customers, prospects, and stuff like that. And the market really leaned into non-human identity. So I was like, okay, guys, I was wrong. Let's go with NHI. And this is exciting. Yeah, the last 2, 3 years, it really caught up. And like today, people say NHI as if it's a thing. So, in the founder's journey, it is certainly an exciting journey.
No, of course. Did you have to do quite a lot of education and awareness pieces around what it is you're selling, and especially in the early days?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not a big fan of a market education term. I feel it's a bit condescending, to educate the market. But yeah, I think this evolution, right, of the marketing and positioning, and the tagline of what we do is has a lot to do with how do you explain easily and quickly, and what's the market perspective? What does the market actually understand, right? Before you go and educate, what's your kind of leg into the conversation, right? Obviously there's a lot to go deep and explain, and wide, around the problem, but you do want to find a term that is clear enough, right, that you don't have to educate you just from the get-go. But for sure there was a lot of work to do to explain, why is this different than human identities. And yeah, these days it's clear. Obviously, everyone's talking about NHI, but back then it was a bit less clear. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, why is this different from the legacy machine identity solutions, right? That focus on, like, again, legacy machine, types, right, and types of connections. Yeah. These days, everything to do obviously with agents, right? The machine learning machines, like, the next generation of this. So the tagline keeps evolving.
Yeah, indeed. Did you see back in 2021 or the early days, did you see the whole agentic AI thing coming? Or was
Yeah.
that kind of a happy accident? Or how did that come to be?
It's a good question. So, AI was always there, when looking at our, mission and vision of enabling organizations to adopt, right, and be productive in a responsible way. You used to say that, hey, there's an app for this, right? There's a SaaS for this. These days, there's an agent for this, right? So AI was there as, another important technology, right, that the organizations are adopting for productivity, but it wasn't the core, right? It wasn't the core. It is a very lucky, truthfully, timing for us, where everything agentic is just exploding. So the last year has been a big focus for us on the agentic identity side, and I believe that 80%, if not more, right, of non-human identities will become agentic in a matter of like a year or two. Like, the pace of that this is happening is crazy, and we're seeing this already in 2025.
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems like almost every sort of investment coming through or news story is around this agentic piece in some way, shape, or form, which is crazy. And it's good that it's got a lot of eyeballs on it. I guess that must drive more competition for yourself. So, I understand this as you were the first or one of the very first to get into this space, and now things are popping up. left, right, and center. But I just saw a LinkedIn post from you guys, I think it was yesterday or today even, that says, there's zero customer churn going on. So how are you doing that in such a now competitive landscape?
Yeah, yeah. So a few things. First, thank you for mentioning that and researching, our posts and everything. So first, I must say, maybe in this opportunity, thank you to all our customers and advisors and investors and everyone. I think what makes me most proud is the zero churn. Truthfully, more than a new shiny customer. The fact that they keep renewing, and most of our contracts, by the way, are multi-years. Like that's big, big, big for me personally. And I think looking at the competition, looking at the landscape, basically you cannot secure agentic access, right, without a very good non-human identity program in place. And the reason is because, one, it's not easy to differentiate between a human and a non-human these days. It's even harder to differentiate between a smart non-human and a stupid non-human, right? So there's a lot to say about the discovery of the agents, right? So just understanding what's the estate, what's happening, right? What do you have out there? That really calls for a very in-depth analysis of what you find. So it's not just a shadow discovery, but it's actually the context that enables you to differentiate, right, between different types, and really flag the agentic or the AI apps across different environments. That really drives us apart from different solutions out there that just don't have the depth, right, that we have. Again, we're lucky to be dealing with this in the last few years, obviously, right? And yeah, the agents are basically logically a subcategory or a type of non-human identity, but in terms of the market opportunity, the market perspective, I actually think it's kind of the opposite. So the agent security is actually bigger, maybe from the NHI perspective, even though logically we would say, right, it doesn't have a heartbeat, so it's a non-human. I think we're going to call most of our apps and services, if not all of them, right, every bot will just be called an agent. That's kind of where the world is going.
Yeah, I think so. And so with all this in mind, would you say organizations you speak to, are they aware of the threats that poor security around their agents can bring, or are they in this camp of like, we're aware we need to fix it, or what, we're not really governing them that much, we're okay? What are you
Yeah,
sort of seeing from what's the state?
I think that one of the biggest trends that we're seeing, right, is the fact that well, we talked about educating less and less, right, the market. With the whole agentic wave, it's really the opposite. There's more and more prospects reaching out to us saying, hey, you do non-human identity, how can you help me with this, right? So agents, I think maybe their non-deterministic nature is one of the big things that obviously makes enterprises scrutinize a bit more, right? I think with AI in general, there's more to lose and more to gain. So productivity is tremendous. Like we've never seen something like this, right? Magnitudes of order in terms of creativity, right, and what it can enable us and unlock for organizations. On the other hand, the unpredictable nature and the actions, the permissions that these agents take to perform actions on our behalf, and the fact that it's not really clear what they learn, what they don't learn, how do we make them forget, right, and what's going on with their memory, right, and sharing in the backend. There's really, it's kind of just enhancing the problems that we used to have, right, with bots and machines and services. But now everything is just multiplied. So yeah, so the problem is very clear, very present. A lot of organizations are actually stalling on adoption because of the security and privacy aspects, and that just puts us exactly in the location to in the position to be an enabler, right, for the organization. So yeah, please adopt, but please adopt with asterisk, so you can actually do it in a more secure way versus just having a binary of connect or don't connect it to the organization, which is obviously the bad approach maybe of being the the officer that says no to advancement.
Got you. So you've got the people that just say no to advancement. You've got the safe, using someone like yourselves to help you do it safely. What's the implications if you don't? put good, strong governance around this, or don't have a solution that enables you to use agentic AI safely?
Yeah, so I think the drift incident that I shared before is an amazing example, right? Exactly of that. In this case, it wasn't an AI app or an agent, but as we said, this really increases the exact same scenario, right? So when you connect basically an entity to the organization, when it has access, it has to be accountable, or someone has to be accountable. Someone needs to look at the risk of the exposure, right? Someone needs to look at the trustworthiness of that entity compared to the permissions that it has to do. And many times we think about data leakage, right? And what data is being exposed. But especially with agents, not only, but especially with agents, it's much more than data, right? When you think of these new AI solutions that can write code on our behalf, send emails on our behalf, halt production, transfer money. These are operations, right? There's nothing to do here with data leakage, right? It's actually performing actions on our behalf that in many cases could be much more devastating, right, for business continuity and really halting productivity, right, versus what we wanted them to do in the first place. So agents really have the potential to create more harm, potentially, right, versus others. And also, it's such a new technology still that there's a lot of like mystery, hallucinations, and advancement and changes in this field. That while everyone is rushing in this competition to adopt more and more, we also understand that we need to put these breaks and checks and balances in place, right, to make sure that we actually understand, that we actually have visibility, that actually have auditability of how is it behaving, what's going on, right, behind the hood versus traditional apps or traditional services where in the last decade or two we've become more comfortable right with connecting and using those technologies.
Mm. So on that, you mentioned a few points there, but how does Astrix actually work then? If I take Astrix on, what am I expecting from this platform to help secure my agentic apps?
Yeah. So on a very high level, Astrix enables you to discover, secure, and deploy agentics and non-human identities as a whole. So discovery, as we talked about, is really analyzing the context, right, and finding out every type of non-human identity and every type of agent. If it's a governed, not governed, across cloud, SaaS, AI environments, on-prem environments, right? So really kind of across the enterprise there. Security really looks at the posture management, the anomaly detection, right? If it's a key rotation, if it's just a hygiene of the credentials and the access. Ownership is a big thing in terms of life cycle management, right, of the agents. And then the deploy piece is actually the final kind of solution of really connecting these apps or these agents in a more secure way from the get-go, right? So we understand we can't change the way the world connects in a day, right? So obviously and we're seeing this being adopted for the riskier connection, right? The new things that we want to connect to sensitive resources or sensitive systems in the enterprise. So really, we're providing the solution to do this in a secure way. You can think of it as like a secure connector, a secure access, maybe, right, for non-humans.
Understood. And your literature talks around a more threat-driven approach. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one identity traditionally was when you think of identity and access management, right? Identity management was an IT, CIO, admin kind of operations, right? Back in the day, less maybe of a security or a cybersecurity per se a discipline. What we're seeing in the last few years is that this is really shifting, right? Access management is the modern firewall, right? Especially for cloud native organizations. And identity is really getting more and more of a center place in the security program. I think that one of the biggest milestones there, and really kind of shines the light and puts this as a de facto standard today, is the acquisition of CyberArk by Palo Alto, really putting identity in the center of the Palo Alto full platform. So really, the way we're looking at the non-human identity and the agentic identity view is really focused first and foremost on the security aspects, right? There's always an overlap. There's a lot to say about, how do you manage the life cycle, right? Onboarding, offboarding, stuff like that, that we understand is an important part of an identity solution, right? But I think what really shines us apart is actually the behavior analysis, right? The auditability, the anomaly detection, right, on top of the behavior analysis, and that's part of where the threat driven approach comes from, as well as third party analysis, right, and stuff of that nature.
And going back to that point you made around the discovery and anomaly detection, are you seeing that organizations just don't know what they've got and they just have no visibility as to when these anomalies are happening?
Yeah. So first,
Wow.
there's a lot of shadow AI. So obviously, people, are adopting whatever a friend just told them yesterday over coffee, and they wanna make sure if the tool really does what they heard what they got promised. And these things connect. It could be a browser extension, it could be something that helps me write my email, or something on the CRM, and is exposed to all the customer data, right? So these things are getting adopted very, very easily, as seamlessly, right, without enough overview. So the discovery is for sure is a big piece. And then when things are connected, and even if it's governed and approved, right, it's very hard, or in fact, it's actually impossible to reapprove it in a rate that and in a frequency that matches the cloud speed, right? So these applications and services keep updating and changing, and the permissions change, and the behavior change, and the usage of them keeps changing. So if you approved it once, right, monitoring what they're actually being used for and how they're actually behaving, again, especially in the agentic workflow world, is becoming more and more important.
Wow. And who's like a solution like Astrix for? Is it just enterprise or is it small medium? It,
Yeah.
it strikes me as everybody could use something like this, right?
Yeah, so everybody for sure. We as a business are focused on large enterprises as our strategic focus. But when you think even on our personal life, we have so many apps and services. They get access to everything. And, in the near future, you and I are going to have an army of agents that are going to help us with a lot of stuff, legal, finance, personal, right, tasks. We want to know, right, what these agents are doing, right, what access do they have, how are they behaving, how they're representing us the way we wanted them to represent, what's the third-party vendor behind them, should we trust it or not? So a lot of the questions and all of the problems that we are actually solving for larger enterprises today are really relevant for a wide range, obviously, of businesses, even as to go into our personal life, which is not our focus today.
Mm.
But I think we will all need something like this for sure.
And again, like looking into the future then. So what's this space going to look like in your opinion in 12 months time, if that's even a question I can pose?
Yeah. I think, we're seeing that, I don't know, 20-30% of services today are like AI enabled or agentic. I think in 12 months, we're going to see it, breach the 50%. So like most of our services
Wow.
will be AI and agentic, or at least will have an important AI component to it. I think as customers of these, right, in a year, right, we may suffer the stupid apps, but in 2 years we won't suffer them anymore. Like, why does this, service don't talk to me in a natural language? That why doesn't it just understand? Why just kind of, why can't I, adapt the dashboard and ask it to create a button or do something creative for me? So yeah, our whole experience as consumers of services, especially in the enterprise, but again, not only, will really change in 12 months from now. Yeah.
I see. And yeah, we've had this agentic AI security piece. It sort of evolved through, the time you started Astrix. Is there anything else on the horizon that we're sort of particularly mindful of that we need to keep in mind?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting trends. Software is keeping, to unbundle and becoming more and more, microservices, micro everything. Different services are being delivered by different third party. Um, different capabilities are increasingly becoming more and more as a service, right? Even agentic, there's like agent as a service versus building your own agent, right? So these are trends that we see as keeping the explosion. The API ecosystem will keep exploding, so everything will become more and more interconnected to everything. Legacy apps, on-prem environments are becoming more and more interconnected with the cloud and SaaS in order for this hybrid mode to actually operate in a modern way. We're seeing this as a big trend as well. Anything to do with secrets and going secretless, so changing connections from the get-go to make sure that they actually hold as least secrets as possible that can actually then leak, right? And that's another big a big piece. Yeah, and then a fleet of agents is something that we've been talking about and thinking about, but the way that agents interact with each other, and the way that agents help each other to perform a bigger action, maybe like a team of humans, right? Doing something. So that's something that's very interesting in terms of the digital workforce, right? So how do you manage the virtual employees of the future, where they work together as a team, right, to perform an action, and maybe some of them are behaving great, some of them are behaving kind of weird, right? For
Mm.
maybe it's a bug, maybe it's a hallucination, maybe it's an abuse, like, right? So there's a lot of reasons for that. So yeah, I think that the space is really really exciting, always evolving. Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. It sort of rings of that Terminator and iRobot stuff coming through. You talk about an army of people, or non-humans that are working for you. It's just bizarre
Yeah.
to think
Well, it's
about it.
even more bizarre when they don't just work for you. When you'll have a virtual manager, then it will become bizarre. I'm sorry,
Oh, there's
apocalyptic.
layers to it. Oh no, this is so strange. I tell you what, if you'd have told me 12 months ago this would be the conversation we'd be having, I'd have thought, that's. But yeah, it's pretty wild. Can I ask you something from more of a business standpoint?
Sure.
So, I mean, we touched on this earlier in the call. It's clearly on a hell of a trajectory at the moment with Series A, Series B, 85 million raised in total. How do you, if somebody's listening here and they're looking to raise, they're looking at potential partners and investors, is choosing the right investor, is that a big um, sort of is that a big sort of point to think about when you're choosing investors, or is it more other fits? What's your sort of approach to this been?
Oh, so first and foremost, choosing the right co-founders and the founding team is the most important piece, right?
Mm,
After that, going, raising your first seed round, finding the right partners and investors that are real partners is crucial. It is for sure. We're very lucky that we have Menlo, CRV, Bessemer, F2 as our investors. Amazing board. Really feel like one team and very very supported. By the way, each and one of them in different steps of the way until today. Um, I think a bad investor can really derail the company, can harm the company, can actually turn away other investors from joining. So yeah, so the good investor is very important for a variety of aspects. It's the go-to market, it's the brand, it's hiring a talent. It's again, it's making sure that other investors want to follow that kind of investor and join the team on that, and basically their expertise, been there, did that, took companies to that scale, so you can really consult and get the help needed, because obviously many of the things we're doing in Astrix is doing them for the first time, right? But
mm.
these firms are professionals in scaling businesses, right? So yeah, so choosing the right one in the right stage, and more so just the person that you feel a personal connection with is crucial in this journey for sure.
Yeah, we hear an awful lot about that. It's almost you're choosing the person to do this with rather than the brand themselves behind it, which is quite interesting. What would
Yeah,
be like a red flag for you of, oh, I'm not sure whether this investor's right for us?
yeah. It's very hard being a psychologist and meet with people and very quick. Although it is a kind of sense that you develop. But the best thing is just talking with the industry. It's in the end it's a small industry. People who really know, been there, did that, who matter. It's not a big circle when you really kind of look at it. So it's very relatively easy to reach out to founders, prior investments, partner, the other funds, getting their perspectives about the good, the bad. It's a roller coaster. There's good days and bad days, and how was it to kind of ride this roller coaster with that specific person. That would be my first and foremost tip for sure.
People business at the end of the day.
Yep.
Awesome. The time has flown by, Jackson. So thank you for sharing all those thoughts there. I know we darted around, and I'm sure there's room for plenty more episodes in each of those areas. Just before we go, what's next for Astrix?
We're actually launching a big product. We call it ACP. ACP stands for the Agentic Control Plane, which we talked about the deploy piece, right? Really enables to connect and adopt AI in a more secure manner. So really providing the control plane for these type of connections. We're very excited about this. Our customers have been asking for this. I think it's our responsibility to deliver. And we're happy that this is kind of seeing light in GA, something we've been working on for a long time. And yeah, I think that's a big piece of the discover, secure, deploy strategy that we have.
Sounds awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thank you again. Appreciate the time and everything. We'll chuck some links below as always, and let's speak soon.
Perfect. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Jackson.
Thanks.